Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about your blood flow? Redwood uses just a few simple, completely natural.
So when did the celebration we call Christmas today begin? Why isn't it in the Bible? Anywhere. If it was the way we are to celebrate our Savior's birth, why don't we see it after Messiah's ascension? I mean, we have quite a bit of history there, written in Scripture about the practice of the apostles, and yet we don't find it there at all. It means it's new, folks. Yet it's really not, because it's the ancient pagan holiday, and that's what we're going to show you. Is this what Paul warned us about? When he warned of another gospel from what he or any apostle ever preached? Well, they certainly didn't keep Christmas, did they? It's not there. How did it then get installed in churches, and today we accept it because, well, our pastors tell us it's safe, but have any of them actually conducted research either? Or do they just rely on what seminaries dispense, daring not to question what is called church doctrine, but prove to be the doctrines of men? Let's dive in because there is so much, and we're only going to cover some references here. We could spend hours on this topic, but we won't. Let's track Christmas and find its true beginning. How did we get here, accepting the counterfeit for Messiah's birth? Well, we can find the origin of this also after Messiah in the 2nd century. A century later, here it is right here. We have the writings of Tertullian, the so-called early church father of what? Well, of the Catholic Church, not the Bible ecclesia. And actually this proves that this is not, because he's telling you already that whatever he's a part of is not the Bible practice. It's right here. Here's what he wrote. By us who are strangers to Sabbaths and new moons and festivals. You mean the Bible practice, even in the New Testament, that Messiah and his disciples kept. That's a problem. So if they were strangers to the Bible, that's what he just said, who are they? Once acceptable to God. Wait. There's the false Catholic theology. The Bible feasts are still acceptable to Elohim today. What were these counterfeit replacements for the biblical feasts, though? That's the question. Well, he names them. He tells you in the 2nd century, 155 AD, here you go, the Saturnalia. Now, that's Christmas by a new name, essentially, especially some of the practices. The date is going to end up being another one of these, but it's the same thing because they had to rebrand it all, with, the orgies, the murders, all that evil stuff that happened on that evil day. They couldn't just call it Saturnalia still and keep that in the church. They had to call it something else. Oh, let's put Christ's name on it even. Yeah, right. Like that changed it. The feasts of January. Well, they still keep those too, but they call them things like Three Kings Day. Profane that too. Why don't you? Yet there are no biblical feasts in December nor January. Sorry, it's just not there. By the way, that includes Hanukkah. That's not in the Bible, ever. That's not a Bible practice. And we disprove that in the Hanukkah hoax. Watch it. The Brumalia. Now, that one is crucial because that's actually December 25th. There you go. And Matronalia. The matron. The mother goddess. No, that's not Mary. And that's not her feast. Never was and never will be. Are now frequented. So this is what they do. This is their practice. This is the practice of this new church. Well, this new church ain't his. Because if it was, they would be practicing what he practiced. The example that he gave us. So you mean the church which could never be called his ecclesia, who trashed the Bible and replaced Bible feasts with counterfeit feasts in their place already, basically in the 2nd century. We have it right here. After Messiah, just 100 years later, they already messed this up royally. Yep, the modern church is not following the Bible on these, and Tertullian knew it way back then. He even shows remorse here. Understand that. So he wasn't necessarily a horrible guy, but he knew that his church was not practicing the Bible. That's basically what he's saying here. And again, he wasn't either, but he continues. Gifts are carried to and fro. Like Christmas, right? Saturnalia is its origin, not the Bible. Brumalia as well, date-wise. Oops, that's a pretty serious omission or admission of guilt right there. In 155 AD, New Year's Day presents are made with din. Oh, how nice. New Year's now. Another very occult pagan practice, an event, not Bible, and the wrong time of year, as the Bible year begins in mid-March, essentially, to late March, and sports and banquets are celebrated with uproar. Now that sounds exactly like today. I mean, come on. What's your father watching on Christmas? Yeah. Same thing. I mean, this is, we see this all the time. Not everybody, of course, but I know in my household, my dad was a sports watcher, so he was watching sports every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, watching the Super Bowl, the World Series, the World Cup, the Olympics, all of it. So we're still celebrating the same way, basically. They might have different names, but it's the same thing. Oh, how much more faithful are the heathen, the ungodly, to their religion, who take special care to adopt no solemnity from the Christians. So that's a very true statement. They do not. But churches do adopt these occult practices. Why? I mean, again, it almost seems like he's lamenting it here. They've been infiltrated by the enemy even way back in 155 A.D. Wow. Watch our 3 videos after the apostles for far more early history that demonstrates what we call the Catholic Church today was never the Ecclesia of Messiah, but the very ones who crept in unawares, according to Jude, according to Paul, infiltrating the Ecclesia and changing the Bible practices of keeping the 7 biblical feasts, which the early ecclesias still kept centuries after Jesus Yahusha ascended into heaven, and the apostles kept it, and Messiah kept them. They didn't keep Christmas. Sorry, that's not Bible. In fact, watch our feast series where we lay out these biblically appointed feasts, which are shadows of heavenly things, according to Paul, meaning they can't pass away, nor have they. The notion is ridiculous. We have been lied to grossly about these changing the Bible practice to this satanic holiday we call Christmas. These are all in our playlist now, Is Christmas in the Bible? So you can just watch them all consecutively right there, easy to find. Wait, what are these holidays? Well, all pagan, all occult, none biblical, okay? The ones he just listed, and he told you so it's not a surprise. Saturnalia, Brumalia, Matronalia, New Year's. Let's connect this so all can see what this is. Here's an article from the University of Chicago, from academia, not from us. The Saturnalia was the most popular holiday of the Roman year. Now, this is in Roman times, of course. Catullus describes it as the best of days. Oh, wait a minute. You mean the most wonderful time of the year? Yeah. Yep, that one. And Seneca complains that the whole mob has let itself go in pleasures. Now we're seeing what this day is really about in origin. They had orgies, heavy drinking, hedonism, the opposite of the Bible, and certainly not a celebration of the birth of Messiah, no matter how much they try to whitewash it today. Sure, then, they cleaned it up in image, but they can't hide this. This history is firm. Pliny the Younger writes that he retired to his room while the rest of the household celebrated. Well, good for him. We should all follow that example for this satanic holiday. See, that's how you celebrate it. You just don't. That's what we should do. We should just sustain. We should just refrain. It was an occasion for visits to friends and the presentation of gifts. Ah, sounding familiar? Of course it is, because this is the origin of Christmas. Particularly wax candles. Oh, well, we still do that. Why? Now you know. Perhaps to signify the returning light after the solstice. Is about the solstice being what? The birth of the sun god, the light. Hello, it's the pagan festival of lights, or otherwise known in Judaism as Hanukkah, which is a pagan celebration as well, and not a Bible one ever. Watch the Hanukkah hoax and Who Defiled the Temple, and we lay that out very clearly. And Sigillaria. Marshall wrote, Xenia and Aphoreta, however you say that, hospitality rituals, basically. This is what these are for pagans. Basically the manual, kind of like they do for Christmas today in some ways. They have Christmas etiquette and things like that. But yeah, this is Christmas, all right. It's the same. Is it not good to be hospitable? Are we saying, that's, we're not supposed to? Come on. Give me a break here. Not for the occult, it's not. No. This is Zeus worship, as he is protector of strangers. Did you know that? That's what that's all about. Nice. In fact, in law, however, Xenia actually was the name of law in those days. It dealt with fatherless children, which matches the celebration. Orgies. Hello. Both of these are about gift giving, and these became the manuals for this pagan occult practice. These would morph into what would be called the 12 books of epigrams. Yep, origin of the 12 days of Christmas. Indeed, there you go. But it's nice to give gifts, right? Yep, it sure is. If it's not a cult ritual, that is. And you're not participating in Zeus worship, right? Or Apollo worship, or sun worship, or whatever you want to call it. Just insert a god, because they would worship them all during this time. It is a pagan feast. It's nice to sacrifice, but Yahuwah rejects it when you involve Zeus. I mean, come on. It's the same concept there. Don't try that here. It's nice to have family meals. But Yahuwah hates it when you have Zeus and Apollo over for dinner, sitting at the dinner table, okay? Or Ahura Mazda and Mithra, for that matter. Or name the pantheon in other cultures. It's the same concept. He's not there, that's for sure. He wouldn't be. For the Saturnalia, both of which were published in December and intended to accompany the guest gifts, there you go, Christmas, that were given at that time of year. So it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, right? On the first day of Christmas, yeah, exactly. You well know this is the same thing. This isn't even hidden, folks. Aulus Gellius relates that he and his Roman compatriots would gather at the baths in Athens. To do what? I don't want to know, right? I mean, we don't even want to go there. But he says where they were studying and posed difficult questions to one another on the ancient poets. What? Okay. A crown of laurel being dedicated to Saturn if no one could answer them. Okay. So they had what? Trivia night? No, pretty sure something's missing there. Quite a bit of detail, in fact. But the others are very clear what this is. During the holiday, restrictions were relaxed. What do you mean? What does that mean? It means laws. In other words, it was complete chaos. That's what would ensue, and basically evil at that. And the social order inverted. Okay, so they switched social orders. What does that mean? Well, we see it today. It's the same thing. It's just like giving to the homeless at Christmas, trying to bring them up to your level for a day. It's fake now, and it was fake then, and they know it too. Gambling was allowed in public. Slaves were permitted to use dice and did not have to work. Again, they were elevated to basically the status for a day of a rich person. Again, it was fake and very temporary. It's only one day. Instead of the toga, colorful dinner cloths, like Christmas sweaters, perhaps, were permitted in public, as was the pileus. A felt cap normally worn. Wait. You mean like the elves wear? Like Santa wears? Huh. Especially the elves, though, because, see, they are the slaves. How about that? There you go. The origin of elves, the slaves. Nothing new under the sun, folks. By the manumitted slave that symbolized the freedom of the season. Within the family, a lord of, get this, misrule was chosen. Misrule? You mean chaos. Call it what it was. That's what it is. That's what that term means. A role once occupied by a young Nero who derisively commanded his younger stepbrother Britannicus to sing. Okay. Slaves were treated as equals, allowed to wear their master's clothing, just as we really do with the poor today, one day of the year. Come on, let's stop pretending that that's the same thing. That doesn't have any meaning whatsoever otherwise. It's this same event. And be waited on at mealtime in remembrance. Well, that's exactly what we do at this time of year as well today. Soup kitchens and things like that in many cases, the volunteers come out of the woodworks that one day of the year. But what about the other 364 days when these people are in need? Of an earlier golden age thought to have been ushered in by the god Saturn. Yeah, well, essentially, Saturn is Satan, folks. Know that. In the Saturnalia, well, that's his day even, hello, very nice, Lucian has the god himself declare that during my week the Sirius is barred, no business allowed, no law either. Understand that. And what would Satan say? Do what thou wilt, right? That's the whole of the law in the Satanic Bible. Drinking, noise, and and games and dice, appointed of kings, drunkenness, and feasting of slaves, gluttony, basically. Singing naked, disgusting, no thank you. Clapping of frenzied hands, and occasional ducking of corked faces in icy water. Kind of like, bobbing for apples, perhaps, maybe? Such are the functions over which I preside. Statius recounts a December tipsy with much wine. Well, how nice. And that serves Jesus, Yahusha, how? It doesn't. Don't get me wrong, this holiday's not meant to, right? I know they call it Christmas now and try to put his name on it, even though that's not his name. It doesn't work. And laughing, mirth, and wanton wit, remembering the glad festival of our merry Caesar, and the banquet's drunken revel. How nice. That's the origin of Christmas, folks. Here's more. See if this sounds even more familiar. Here we go. So, let's see. They have figs. Bring me some figgy pudding, right? Nuts, still prominent in the practice to this day. Even the Nutcracker Ballet, for that matter. Dates, also very normal to see that in the Christmas celebration. And other dainties were showered on the people, women and children, men and senators alike, and bread and wine served while guests were entertained by women fighting in the arena. Sports. These would be gladiators, pro wrestling, boxing matches, all sports for that matter. Pretty much a match to this, all the same today. And this is interesting, cranes were hunted by dwarfs. Now that actually sounds like something would be kind of neat to see. I'm just saying, but not on this time. This is as pagan as you get. Were the three kings dwarfs, perhaps, who chased cranes from the east? No, doesn't work. That's not the narrative, is it? By the beginning of December, writes Columella, the farmer should have diminished his autumn planting. Now, with the approach of the winter solstice, December 25th, there you go, in the Julian calendar, ding, 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 ding. Of course, it's gonna get there with a stronger connection in a minute to that exact day. Saturnus, the god of seed and sowing, otherwise known as the god of fertility, and that includes sex, as did Saturnalia include the same, orgies, was honored with a festival. The Saturnalia officially was celebrated on December 17th and lasted 7 days in Cicero's time, December 17th through the 23rd. Oh, but that will change. I know some will say, oh, well, that's not Christmas because it's 2 days earlier. Yeah, right. Hang on. That connection is firm. We'll be there in a minute. Still, everyone seems to have continued to celebrate for a full week, even though some emperors shortened the government holiday time. We skipped a section there of this writing, but go read it all. The link is on the screen. Extended, says Macrobius, by celebrating the Sigillaria on the last day of Saturnalia, so named for the small earthenware figurines. Ha ha! Wait a minute, that were sold then. I'm sorry, could this get any worse? Could it be any more exacting to what we call Christmas? You mean like the nativity figurines used today? Wow. At the end of the 1st century AD, Statius besotted from Domitian's Saturnalia feast, exalted, who can sing of the spectacle, the unrestrained mirth, really unrestrained. This was evil, folks, and yes, it was unrestrained. That's Christmas in origin. It was a disgusting feast. The banqueting, the unbought feast, the lavish streams of wine. Yeah, the drunkenness, very nice. Now I faint and drunken with thy liquor drag myself at last to sleep. Is that worship? Not of Yahusha, it's not. Who are they worshiping? Well, Satan, Saturn. That's who they're worshiping. And that's whose day this really truly is. For how many years shall this festival abide? Never shall age destroy so holy a day. Yeah, it's because it's holy to get drunk, right? Certainly, this must be satire, right? Just satanic, that's what it is. But perhaps holy to him, because maybe that's his God. How about that? While the hills of Latium remain, and Father Tiber, while thy Rome stands, and the capital thou hast restored to the world, it shall continue. And the Saturnalia did continue to be celebrated as the Brumalia. See, Saturnalia became Brumalia. Oh, what's that? That's the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice on December 25th. Boom! There it is. Essentially, it was moved, and that's where we get the date, December 25th, for Christmas today. Down to the Christian era, when, by the middle of the 4th century AD, its festivities were becoming absorbed into the celebration of Christmas. We didn't write that. Academia did. Saturnalia leads to Brumalia, which leads to Christmas. It's all the same. There you go, the connection, and very firm. In another section here in this writing, it says the first reference to December 25th as the Nativity of Jesus occurs in a section of the chronography of AD 354, known as the calendar of Philocylus, which even by this late date still identified December 17th as Ludi Saturnalia. So still Saturnalia remain the 17th through the 23rd, roughly. The first day being the big celebration, I guess, is what it appears. But no doubt December 25th became Christmas, and it's not called that quite yet still, but it will be. And this is the history that is untold in your church. Your pastor's not telling you this, but this is an occult, pagan holiday, and it is not worship of our God, folks. You got the wrong God, you got the wrong birthday, you got the wrong time of year, on the wrong date, and it's the wrong feast. It's just